When it comes to improving your driving skills, especially on track, one of the most crucial aspects to master is braking technique. Many aspiring drivers focus solely on braking as late as possible, trying to push their braking point further and applying maximum pressure to the brake pedal, regardless of the type of corner. However, this approach is rarely the most effective. Braking is what separates good drivers from the top-tier ones. Anyone can slam on the brakes at the last possible moment. That's the easy part. But the true art of braking isn't about waiting until the very last second. It's about finding the right point to apply firm yet progressive pressure on the brakes. This isn't just about using physical reference points on the track, like braking markers or distance boards, but also about developing sensitivity to brake pressure and knowing exactly when to start easing off. If you find yourself still at full braking pressure beyond the ideal turn-in point, meaning when you start to steer, you've likely braked too late. The goal is to strike a balance. Begin braking at a point that allows you to decelerate effectively, then progressively release brake pressure before or as you enter the corner. This improves vehicle control and results in smoother driving, adapting the braking phase to both the car's characteristics and the corner itself. Experimenting with braking points and slightly anticipating them can often be a winning strategy, helping you maintain better control, navigate corners more efficiently, and ultimately improve your overall performance on track. Another key factor is how you manage the transition phase when the car is floating between braking and turning, which is directly linked to how you use the brakes. Braking too hard or too late can put you in a situation where you're no longer in control of the car is controlling you. The secret is to stay in control at all times, especially during braking and corner entry. To achieve this, you need to establish a brake release point that allows for optimal weight balance and load transfer, no matter what type of car you're driving. This entire process starts with the braking point itself, which may need to be adjusted so that brake release happens at the right moment. A crucial skill is managing weight transfer between the front wheels and the outer wheels during a corner by modulating brake pressure strategically. A common mistake is overloading the front axle. If there's too much weight on the front wheels, the car will understeer. The front tires will lose grip, making the car reluctant to turn and forcing it to continue straight. On the other hand, if the front axle is too loaded while the rear gets too light, you risk oversteer. The rear tires will lose grip, causing the car to rotate too much and potentially spin out. To avoid these issues, you need to learn how to shift the car's weight dynamically through the corner. Gradually releasing brake pressure while starting to steer transfers weight onto the outer wheels, keeping both front and rear tires within their optimal grip levels. This results in a smoother, more controlled trajectory. This technique is known as trail braking. Now let's take a look at some of the most common mistakes drivers make when applying this braking technique. One of the biggest errors involves the transition from braking to steering. Many drivers, after braking in a straight line while approaching a corner, abruptly release the brake as soon as they start to turn the wheel. This can cause significant issues because a sudden brake release lifts the front axle, reducing load on the front tires and compromising grip. This abrupt shift in balance can lead to a loss of control. Essentially, the weight transfers too quickly from the front to the rear, making the car unstable. To prevent this, it's crucial to release the brakes gradually while initiating the turn, maintaining control over the front tires, and ensuring a smoother transition between braking and corner entry. This improves both stability and precision in your trajectory. Another common mistake in trail braking is mismanaging brake pressure while turning in. Many drivers tend to keep too much pressure on the brake pedal even as they begin to steer. On a straight, the car can handle heavy braking because the tires aren't dealing with lateral forces. But as you approach a corner, you need to ease off the brakes to allow the car to rotate properly. Keeping excessive pressure on the brakes while steering disrupts the car's balance. As mentioned earlier, too much front-end load will push the nose down while making the rear too light and unstable, increasing the risk of oversteer. This makes the car harder to control. The key is to progressively reduce brake pressure during trail braking. Not too fast, not too slow, so that the car enters the corner with the right speed and balance. Another frequent mistake happens during the transition from full braking to trail braking, meaning the exact moment when you start easing off the brakes as you enter a turn. Many drivers hold maximum brake pressure for too long before turning in, which again overloads the front tires, making the rear too light and increasing the risk of oversteer. If you release the brakes too late while already steering, it becomes much harder to restore proper balance. Instead, you should begin easing off the brakes slightly before turning the wheel, ensuring enough grip to carry more speed through the apex. To use trail braking effectively, drivers must constantly assess track conditions, car behavior, and race dynamics, adapting their braking technique to maximize grip and cornering performance. There's no universal rule for exactly when to fully release the brakes. If you're experiencing oversteer, you may need to ease off earlier to keep the rear end stable. On the other hand, if you're dealing with understeer, when the front tires lose grip, you might benefit from extending the trail braking phase slightly to keep more load on the front wheels and improve turn-in response. The secret to good trail braking starts with choosing the right braking point and applying an early but smooth steering input, avoiding any sudden movements. It's essential to steer progressively and to release brake pressure gradually. Always remember, the steering wheel is meant to guide the car's direction, not force it to rotate. Rotation is influenced primarily by braking, which increases front-end grip and allows you to control weight transfer. For this same reason, oversteering while trail braking can be counterproductive. If you turn the wheel too much while still on the brakes, you risk overloading the front tires and reducing the car's ability to rotate, leading to understeer. In this scenario, both front tires start to lose grip, making it difficult to follow the ideal racing line and causing a loss of control. The goal is always to balance weight transfer properly for a smooth, precise, and fast cornering phase.